Doug Wiley with Police Magazine. I'm here with Fish, Steve Fish. I haven't called you Steve in many years. We're here at Alita 2019. We're back in St. Louis, Missouri, an assembly of the best and the brightest minds in this business in law enforcement.
Absolutely.
A wonderful group of folks, and I'm glad that you could take some time out of your busy schedule today to talk with me about something that I feel is, well, it's a conversation that started at Alita around 4 years ago, because it was after Ferguson that we started to see law enforcement officers, and Ferguson's less than 5 miles from here.
Right.
So it happened that law enforcement, with so much anti-police sentiment and all of the protests and all the stuff in the news and viral videos, cops began to pull back from proactive policing, and we began to have this word de-policing in America. Not every place, there are many, many cities where the law enforcement community and law enforcement profession continue to charge hard forward and do the Terry stops and do the traffic stops and do the things that help reduce crime in communities. But there are places like here in St. Louis, Baltimore comes to mind, Chicago comes to mind. There are other places where law enforcement officers have pulled back from doing a lot of those things that had really helped over the last several decades, half a century, reduce crime. And as a consequence of that withdrawal from those activities, you're seeing the communities, the citizens, the law-abiding citizens in these communities that are most affected by crime being further victimized. What are your thoughts on first off, how to address depolicing? How do you address the department and the people who you're leading and say, it's okay for you to go out and do your job. I'm not going to throw you under the bus.
Yeah.
Because they're fearful that they're going to get jacked up on some sort of criminal charges, civil suit, whatever, be the next subject of a viral video. How do you support your troops? How do you support your force?
It goes back, it starts at the top. If your upper administration supports every officer and everything they do out on the street, we're here for a great example. It's a training. If they do everything on how they're trained, training is so valuable. And I listen to some of the guys, we sit out here and talk on how little their training budgets are. It's mind-blowing to me. My department, we train. Mm-hmm. And it's from the realistic-based training, from the scenarios. You got to do the hands-on stuff. And if you do that and you build that confidence in those coppers' heads, and you get your upper administration to support that, it makes these coppers more willing to go out and do that. But they have to support them every time that complaint comes across. When I was on third shift, I had a group of really good hard chargers. These guys were out there doing exactly what you said, doing the traffic stops. We were having bars that were getting knocked off, so these guys went out there and addressed that problem. And exactly what you said, everything started coming down. Guys were making the media. Somebody take a cell phone video and throw that out on social media. Everybody's grabbing grasps of straws at that and then just slamming these cops up and over under the bus. And that's terrible, and the upper administration needs to bite that down and just grab it and say, no, that's not what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I got to say that happened on my department, and they're good about handling it. And if you don't do that, then things are just going to get too out of control. And like you said, it's just going to be viral, and it's just going to go crazy.
Yeah, and you mentioned, and I think this is absolutely the most critical piece of this, and we're at law enforcement training and trainers, mm-hmm. educators conference here. We're, these are the best instructors in America, and actually from Canada, and we've got people from Europe and
Ukraine.
Exactly. So the core of this, the answer to this, is training.
Absolutely.
And because then you give your officers the confidence that they know the law, they know the policy, they know if they do what they're meant to be doing within the law and policy, that they're not going to get jacked up on some sort of beef, that they're going to be supported because the chief can, or the police leader, or even the politician, the elected official can say, what they did, while it doesn't look nice, because use of force never looks nice, it's not pretty.
Of course not.
Yeah, but what they did was within the law and within police policy, and take it up with the courts if you want, but what this officer did, they did within the law.
And you're never going to see something happen to the letter on how somebody was trained. It's never going to happen.
Of course not.
So that needs to be passed out. I mean, people need to understand that. There's dynamics, and even every situation, the dynamics is going to change what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
And what we talked about earlier about the respect, huge. Why? Because exactly what you said, cameras. I mean, holy crap, everything's being videotaped.
Yeah.
So if you do what we trained, and you train these guys, and that's like I said, I talked to Jen, I think there's over 800 trainers here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you can just sit there and pick apart. You can't attend all the classes. You wish you could, but you can't.
Can't be in 2 places at once, and I'd like to be in 3 places at once.
What biggest lawsuits in law enforcement? Failure to train, right?
Yeah.
Average lawsuit's $400,000. That's insane, you know? So,
And then people complain about the cost of training. Well, guess what? The cost of not training
Right.
is considerably higher.
well, it's not only that. I mean, let's look at it realistic. I mean, somebody's always going to get hurt. It's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of our job. But when it's a copper that gets hurt or a copper that loses their life, you can't put a dollar amount on that, in my personal opinion. I mean, I think every cop here is on the same page with that. So keep training, keep doing, document the hell out of it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we do. I mean, document the training, get everything down on, so you can just present it all right there, and we're going to look golden.
One final piece of this puzzle, if you will, is the fact that the communities that are in most need of law enforcement presence are the ones where law enforcement is being pulled back. The impact on that community. Tell me about, because you see this on the street.
Yeah.
You're out there on patrol as a sergeant, and you have, like you said earlier, these some places that can kind of get a little bit hairy, and they're getting hairier. And these citizens who are law-abiding, just people living their lives that just want to live in peace, and they're being affected significantly worse, they're very adversely by the fact that law enforcement is not being conducted in the same proactive way. What are your thoughts on that?
This goes back to the administration. Administration is, if we get the support of administration, do the training, we get these guys' confidence built up, and you support the fact that they're going out there, have them go out into the community and meet these people.
Yeah.
My department, we have community-oriented policing, where we have officers that work strictly in the neighborhoods that are, I'm not going to use the word targeted because that's not the correct terminology, but we have houses into the areas where the people in the neighborhood can go there and get the assistance from the officers that work there. And then we have what they call COPD officers, and what they do is they work directly with these house officers, and they conduct the problems and deal with the problems that are there in that area. And it works well, because then when you have National Night Out, or you have any of these other
Coffee with a cop, or all of those things.
like Chop with a Cop and all this other stuff, and you get that community support, and then you're in that area, you're more likely to get a little bit more, we talked about before, respect from the people that live there, because not everybody in these neighborhoods are renters. There are a lot of homeowners that live in these very tough neighborhoods. And when I did the COP thing back in 2001 with my partner, I still can go out on the street in the same areas that I was in, and them homeowners are still there, and they remember me.
Yep.
And they're willing to more than help you solve the problems that we have out there.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I mean, it's not personal. It's not against the cops in general. So guys just got to go out there and be proactive, and they'll find out that the job's a lot easier when they're proactive.
Yeah. Fish, thank you very much for everything you do to help train our officers out there on your PD and all across the country, all of the things that you've done. And thank you for taking some time today.
Anytime, Doug.
Doug Wiley, Police Magazine.